Hey guys, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia, and we're trying a brand new idea here for season 2 of Better Than Real Life events, Better Than Real Life TV. So if you want to follow what we're doing, we have a Facebook page, Better Than Real Life Events, and we have a YouTube channel, Better Than Real Life TV. So today I'm using Restream in Series 2 just to see how different that looks. It's quite a cool system. You can have really quite a multi-dimensional idea here. You can have quite a lot of different looks in the screen, and I do like this. So we've got people calling in from all over the world, and you can see that we can have them all along the bottom or all along the top, all along the side. And so this is the first of the season 2 of Better Than Real Life TV. What we're actually talking about today is the power of going global with live streaming, and I'm loosely calling live streaming audio and video now, given that we've got Clubhouse and we have got Twitter Spaces at least, and 27 others that keep popping up. I'll just work you through the team. We've got really cool global team. We've got Melanie in Dublin, or near Dublin in Ireland. It's very, very early in the morning, and she's found a quiet spot in the house so that she won't wake the kids. Elaine's calling in from Ottawa, where it's 8 p.m. there. John's calling in from Miami, where it's 8 p.m. And let me just work you through the rest of the people here. Simon is calling in from Dublin as well, where it's 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm guessing. Yeah, 1 a.m. And Ingrid is calling in from Miami as well on her phone because we had some challenges with the audio. And that's all part of what this show is about. It's about trying new technologies, trying new ideas. And I've got a couple of questions around this. So I'll get started and I'll just run the room. I'll start with John because I know he's got a meeting coming up soon. John, thanks for calling in from Miami. Thanks for working through our technical challenges. I wanted to just give the audience a bit of an overview about what you do, but more importantly, what do you think the real power play here is with live streaming, whether it's audio or video? Where are we going with this?
Sure. Thank you very much, Keith. It is my pleasure to share with each one of you tonight or morning my interest in live streaming and other technologies. So personally, I advocate for the design and planning for business strategies in terms of what we call nowadays as the virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. So when it comes to live video streaming for professional use, there is so much to know, so much to say. However, since a top professional grade live streaming platform is a very powerful broadcasting tool that can actually solve providers update regularly, it is difficult to find reviews and comparisons when we are trying to customize that, let's say, service that we want for our organization. So it is quite interesting that I've learned so far. Many of the clients consider or the question is the features to consider when comparing streaming platforms. The beauty of having so many live video streaming services to choose from is that there are dozens of combinations of powerful features. However, stream hosts are not a one size fits all sort of things. So that means that features that are valuable to you, Keith, may not be valuable to another broadcaster, and vice versa. So, everything from taking a look to the professional video hosting services, to secure video streaming, to low latency streaming, video monetization, mobile streaming application, video editing, just to name a few, cloud video encoding. I mean, there's a vast number of services that, once again, each one of them will serve purposely to every organization in a different manner. However, I think we are coming together in this new fancy road of live streaming better than live events. So I'm very happy to just keep answering any question you have in regards to it. And I'll be also very excited to talk to you later about what's the metaverse, which is the next step forward from
Let's
live
let's come
streaming.
back to that because I actually predict that the audio. I predict the audio streaming and the video streaming world will merge, and there'll be sort of a combination going on. And you're loosely calling that the metaverse. We'll come back to that idea. Let's hold that thought in our heads. But Simon had a cool comment here about how he's loving the new site. Let's just bring Simon in. Um, Running a show is like driving a racing car. There's a lot of. I really need a producer now. So, Simon, let me just bring you in to the call. If I can get my site to work. Here we go. Let me bring you in on the call. What do you think the main power here is of live streaming as it relates to audio and video? Because I think we're going to see a convergence, aren't we? Both of those things are loosely called streaming now, aren't they?
Well, I think even today, Keith, if you think about the tool that we're using today with Restream, I mean, I'm already really impressed with all the different features that it has. And I know your comment there a moment ago that you were sort of tongue in cheek saying, I almost need a producer at this stage. I'm not sure if somebody needs to mute. I can hear a lot of keyboard
Yeah,
tapping.
that's right. There is a bit of tapping in here.
Yeah, not sure. But I'm just saying that your throwaway comment there about I need a producer and it's a bit like driving a racing car. And it is becoming quite complex. I'm actually working on a different production at the moment. And it is becoming extremely complex because you're switching cameras, you're switching audio, you're bringing
Yeah.
people in, you're bringing people out. And we're almost in the same way, if I can offer, that years ago you had a full-blown IT department to manage things, and today you do an awful lot yourself. It's almost as though the world of media production has come to the
Yeah.
the home device, and I'm really impressed with the amount of tools that are out there, and I think it's just going to get better and better. But live streaming is here to stay, and I can talk about that a little bit later in terms of the hybrid approach to, for example, events and live streaming. So yeah, it's an exciting topic, and I'm
It is.
glad to
Look,
feedback.
I want to hold. I want you to hold that thought. But first things first. Whoever is typing, and that's fine that we're typing. But can you please mute yourself because there's like this really subtle feeling going on, and I can't work out who's doing it. So please, whoever's typing, please mute yourself because there's this subtle feeling going on underneath. Sorry about that. So, but picking up on Simon's idea, like this is Restream. Restream is a site that doesn't cost very much money, but allows us to do this very professional looking show with people all around the world, Dublin, Miami, Melbourne, Ottawa, and we can have up to 10 guests. We can have comments on the side. We can have little captions. I want to run you through some of the graphics because I really want to point out why live streaming is such a cool thing. And my preference is video, but I want to run the room on that as well. You can add your logo. You can add a QR code. You can add a graphic. You can add a cool image that is somewhat indicative of the show. You can have a caption. You can link your website. The power, especially in the visual components. You can follow me on Twitter. All of this is at the click of a button. And I'm being a bit facetious here because I really wish I had 3 hands and 4 heads because I'm trying to do so many things at one time. But the power is in our hands, and picking up on what Simon said there, we really have the power to run fully blown shows. And it's very exciting, isn't it, Simon?
Well, I think, I mean, once you talk about staging and lighting and good audio and a decent camera, I'm really impressed with how the streaming tools are getting better and better. I just posted a comment in the audience chat there because the production power is definitely increasing, and as the tools are developing, you're starting to see these various streaming providers compete with each other to add bells and whistles and extra go faster stripes. And that's only going to be a benefit to the users, people like us. And, if you think about what it would have cost to produce a show with 5 or 6 people on an international scale with camera, video, lights, audio, compared to how we can do it today, it's incredible when you look at it in that context. And I think we're only beginning to see the creativity of that we haven't even scratched the surface of the creativity, I think.
Yeah.
Keith.
Well, let me bring Elaine in, because Elaine is famous for being one of the very, very, very first people on Google Hangouts, and she still speaks highly about them today. Can you tell me a little bit about why live streaming is so cool, but how does it compare to the Google Hangouts era? Because that's almost a decade ago now, isn't it?
It is a decade ago, yeah. It'll be a decade as of July. It's what Simon said about the bells and whistles, the sheer volume of production tools that we have available now, it just absolutely blows your mind. Okay, we're seeing millennials and the Gen Z or Z coming up, and they honestly don't really understand or pay attention to television. They don't have to. Okay, we have live streaming that they can all use. And for example, my grandson, one of them, he's 7, did his first live stream on Monday on Twitch.
At 7?
At 7 on Twitch. Okay, and invited guests and was, of course, gaming. What else do they do when they're that young? But it just goes to show that it's almost part of their DNA. You know the old story of the monkey on the island learned to peel the banana, and then all the monkeys everywhere were able to do that as well because it became part of the intrinsic, inside of the monkeys. Well, Hangouts early on gave us the ability to have 10 people. Zoom kind of piggybacked on the platform that was Hangouts and took it a step further. But Hangouts had something that a lot of them don't yet have, and that's the capability for studio mode.
What do you mean by that?
Studio mode was made in order for bands and singers and songwriters to get premium audio within a Hangout. It was around for ages. It came out because of a young woman named Daria Musk, and you can all look her up. It was put into effect because everybody from will.i.am and the Black Eyed Peas and lots and lots of bands and singers-songwriters used to do weekly jam sessions. And you would put it into studio mode and the sound was incredible. Not so great for talking, mind you, at that point, but even back in 2011, this became so incredible that by 2012, 70 people met up in New York City from around the world with some of these singer-songwriters to be able to spend 5 days together and celebrate what Hangouts was. By then, we had started with Zoom, and since then, we have gone through Periscope and Blab, and there's just so many. We use StreamYard. Restream is another one. Be Live is another. There's just so many out there. YouTube picked it up pretty early and does live streaming. You had to make sure that you understood how to put your pieces together so that you could do it, but it was always available to you. Now it's become such a integral part of small business, not to mention even corporations, that it's almost a necessity. If you're going to start up a business, you have to be able to live stream. Now, I'm going to go off on the side, Keith, if you don't mind, indulge me for a minute. I have, of course, tried Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces. And as much as I like the concept of audio only, because let's face it, you can get up, be in your PJs, the buff, whatever. Women don't need makeup. It's easy peasy. So it makes it easier to sort of jump on and be able to speak. But for instance, Clubhouse does not have the tools that make it easy for people to figure out A, who's speaking, and B, when they're done. Not only that, you can't even send them a message. You have to go look at their profile, go to Twitter, go to Instagram. There's an awful lot of moving parts involved just to sort of be present.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I think a little bit much eventually for people. Because we're in a pandemic, people are so desperate to be able to connect. It's kind of been a godsend because it's given the people that are video averse, and many years ago, that was Keith, very video averse. It made it that much simpler, I guess, and people flock to it in droves, which is great. But the difference is what we get to see in video. You get the micro expressions. You get the real emotion of the people that you're talking to. And you don't get that when all you hear is a voice.
Yeah, look, I'm going to pick up on that because first things first, I want to allow. John says that he's only strictly got half an hour, so I want to acknowledge that you've got a time restriction there. Do you want to just have one last thought on what's been said so far? That video, in many ways, is better than audio. Have you got a thought on whether or not audio adds some things, or do you still prefer video, John?
Actually, I've been involved previously with audio production, and I truly enjoy it. And I think the audio and the video, they all have their own unique, let's say, type of engagement with what the product is going to be and what's the audience. However, if we talk about live streaming for business in the professional setting, things change a lot. So, it's not a secret that before broadcasting, there was that used to be big in business world, live streaming websites designed for consumers and independent content creators such as YouTube Live and Facebook Live were the most well-known streaming solutions. However, there's a lot of frustration sometimes in the professional setting when, for instance, one of the first roadblocks that comes with consumers-grade video streaming platforms that pushes businesses to seek professional cooperative live streaming softwares is the fact that many schools and organizations block these platforms like YouTube or Facebook because they are social media platforms. So, the frustration of missing out a lot of the large audience due to being blocked force professional streaming solutions to come into play, which is great because then we can see a transformation, which is what you've been mentioning previously today in this interview, and the numbers of services have increased, and as well as of course, pricing has changed too, because these services are going to start becoming a valuable solution for businesses. So it's interesting because definitely we're going to keep improving, or these services are going to keep being improved with time until we arrive to the metaverse.
Yeah. Well, look, why don't you just quickly allude to I know you've got another meeting and I want to let you go to that, but you want to just quickly allude to what you mean by the metaverse? Is that a combination of audio and video? Is it a combination of AR and VR, or is it something to do with Elon Musk's satellites in the space? Or I haven't heard the phrase before. What does it mean?
Yeah, the metaverse is actually the combination of everything, right? I think first thing to understand is what metaverse means, and actually, if we divide the words into two, we have the metaphor world and the universe world. So when we combine these two, is what is going to be known as the new internet. So the metaverse is nothing else but a collective virtual shared space in which you converge all the virtual enhanced physical reality and physical persistent virtual space. So including all the sum of these virtual worlds, which includes augmented reality and the internet, is what is going to be known as the metaverse. So
Wow.
it's very interesting because if we go back and we think about Hollywood movies, we can think of examples as The Matrix or Avatar,
Yep. Yep.
which are perfect examples for how we can imagine the new metaverse in our world. So these two words meeting virtually reality and augmented reality and mixed reality is what's going to be known as the metaverse, which means that our live streaming or social media experience is going to be happening in 3 dimension,
Oh,
as
wow.
well as the holograms that I think there are already a few videos. Actually, I shared one in my social media the other day. There are famous artists who are already promoting holograms to transport themselves, from events, in one event, from one place to another one. So it's
And
interesting because
can I
yes.
ask, John, do you need a pair of goggles, or can you do it on your phone? Is it going to become so popular in the world now that we can use a phone, or will we have something like the Merge Cube, or do you need a headset?
Yeah, definitely. New resources are going to be in need. The virtual reality glasses is one of them. The augmented reality glasses is another one, or the smart glasses. And all these fancy, well, right now they've been seen fancy, but at someday they're going to be just seen as normal as
Standard.
your cell
Yeah.
phone, exactly, standards. So right now it seems more like the video game experience. And actually, it's interesting because from this concept, even universities like Berkeley, they just start promoting pretty much events in metaverse. So
Yeah.
they just finished this last year. They just had their graduation celebration, and actually they have other students to become an avatar on metaverse. The
Wow.
universities has built and designed their own metaverse. So by the use of smart glasses and virtual reality glasses, they all join in the metaverse world. There are already concerts being offered by some artists,
Ah, concerts. Okay.
and yeah, no, it's amazing because, for instance, one of the top countries that is promoting the metaverse is Korea, and they have more than 150 million users already creating events with these artists and fans. From artists like Blackpink, for instance, 40 million avatars who were on in the metaverse experience to wait for the signed autograph of their artists, right? So when we think about demographic design for the metaverse, I believe right now we can certainly said that the current time is reaching out to the young crowd mostly, but eventually it will jump into the world of business. In fact, there are companies like Nike and Disney World who are already designing their metaverse to offer to their community of followers a different type of engagement. So it's I think it's very relevant to start learning more about the metaverse because it's not going to only impact the flow of businesses around the world, but also the economy. So it's in fact we're going to be able to combine the real world and the metaverse and getting both monetized. The way this is going to happen pretty much, and I think for the information that is relevant to how the new digital economy is impacting the processes, it has to do a lot with the virtual coins. So to speak, like the Bitcoin, for instance, many of these organizations who are transforming their businesses into metaverse are going to exchange their businesses via virtual coins, for instance. And one interesting question is if we talk about aspects that are important and relevant in the metaverse, time is very important. In the metaverse, your time is going to be valuable, and the value of that time is going to have an impact in how good or not your business is doing in the metaverse. So the impact is going to take time to make it valuable. So traveling in the metaverse is going to be continuous, meaning like the more you spend time in the metaverse, the more your organization is engaging each person, which is eventually is going to monetize their business. So we have to think sort of bi-dimensional social media, going back to the live streaming events in the metaverse. And I have wonderful news because companies like Facebook are aware of the metaverse, and they already created platforms to anticipate the behavior or the futuristic behavior of their followers and community with the metaverse. So actually, right now, currently, Facebook is already working in a few projects, including the new Instagram, in which there are going to be new services provided, such as the hologram, the avatar experience, the virtual reality experience. Meaning, in other words, there's a good chance that Instagram is going to be disrupted by Facebook at some point. And these trends that are digitalizing everything certainly are going to become the top priority for every person or for every business, meaning like the current generations will create new life experiences as we did perhaps 10 years ago with chat rooms on the internet. So pretty much this concept will bring new users, not only a new experience, but new users that are going to rethink and retool their technological skills per se. This will bring products to the metaverse world, and businesses know and will know how to spend their time in the metaverse because it's going to be the most valuable element. And we can then talk about once we arrive there, we can talk about the metaverse memoirs and the different businesses that will try to dominate as Facebook softwares, for instance, or Oculus with their Oculus hardware, which is a project with the virtual reality. Also, you have Microsoft in the competition with the HoloLens, which use holographic technology for educational purposes, for healthcare practice, and then of course, as I mentioned before, Disney World is including their metaverse in these projects.
Well,
So
can I just ask
sure,
for a bit of a
yeah.
wraparound? I know you've got to go, but first things first, can you put your details in the chat and I'll share your details? What I might do is I might bring Ingrid in on the call because she is one of your colleagues. So it makes sense to pick up on what you're saying there, and it also allows you to get to your next meeting. Ingrid, do you want to pick up on this idea that, first of all, live streaming at this stage, 2021, means audio and video, but it eventually will mean AR and VR and headsets and apps. So what is the value proposition to a business of live streaming, and where do you see it going?
Thank you.
Again, someone is typing.
Well,
I'm guessing that's gone.
Can you hear me well?
We can, yeah, we can hear you. I can adjust your volume
Yeah,
slightly
so
here.
I would add another element into the mix, which is artificial intelligence, and the recent acquisition of Microsoft of Nuance for a lot of $1 billion shows you where the industry is going on top of everything else that John mentioned. I think we're going to have natural language processing, translating things in all languages instantly. You're going to have also AI customize the content to each of your interests. So you might already have things pop up on the screen that explain certain aspects because the AI algorithm will know what you usually like or what you might want to learn more about. So I absolutely agree that we will have a convergence, not only of AR, VR, XR, but also natural language processing and other augmented intelligence tools. And we see all tech giants are racing in this business proposition because whoever is the first one that can make it a seamless interaction, that you don't have to download 5 softwares and touch 7 screens, right, to have this experience, will be the winner. There's no doubt.
Well, if you think about what's happening here, all right, let's pick up on what you just said there. The winners will be who can make this software work. Like, look at this. I'm one guy in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm chatting to the world, and it's seamless for me. I mean, I know I've got two hands and one head, and I really wish I had more. But the point is that I can do it. And look at it. I've got Melanie calling in from Dublin. I've got Simon there.
Yep.
I've got Elaine in Ottawa. I'm in Melbourne. John is in Miami.
Yep.
And it's quite, this particular site costs about $19 a month, and it's very, very easy to do. So what we're saying there is the next level is that we'll have this level of software with VR and AR, and imagine what we can do, because it's about empowering the consumer. As Elaine said, she has a 7-year-old grandson that did a live stream on Twitch. Now that is just the coolest thing I think I've heard all week. A 7-year-old streaming on Twitch.
Yeah.
That's the future. So I want to give everyone a turn. Melanie, you've been very patient. It's very, very early there. I do want to say that someone else is typing again. So can you please mute yourself if you are, because we can hear that. So can you please mute yourself? But Melanie, picking up on what we've said, but also picking up on our wonderful article that came out this week, and the blog post is out today, and the podcast came out on Monday. What do you think the real value of live streaming, whether it be audio or video, is for the average business user?
Well, a lot of the questions I get asked, because I'm a social media trainer as well as a journalist, is how do I reach my audience with varied content? And one of the things I've come across more frequently, certainly in the last couple of months, certainly we've been locked down, is noticing people are getting more and more me media. And they're always talking about themselves and banging on about themselves, and this is what they do and this is how they do it. And they're kind of forgetting that they've already got an engaged audience that like them, that they've already got a relationship with. And there's lots of different ways that you can engage that audience without just always talking about yourself, as your business, that is. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody starts getting personal and starts saying, it's their wedding anniversary coming up and how many kids they've got and where they went on holiday last year or anything like that. But it's just so hard to find fresh ways to reach your audience. And I think what a lot of people have struggled with, certainly I've seen in the last year, is, you've got to repurpose what you do. And with live streaming, you can do so many things with it. You can turn it into a podcast as well as obviously doing a video. You can do sound bites that then could go up on YouTube, or add to little bits of pre-recorded video that you've done. There's just so many different things. You can do show notes as well. It can go up on your website as well as on YouTube. It's just crazy what you can do with audio streaming and live streaming.
Well, let's pick up on what happened this week. You interviewed me last week on a Thursday. It was 5 p.m. my time, and it was the morning for you. That podcast came out Monday on Spotify. That's the first level. Then you turned it into a blog post. Mm-hmm. That's 2. 3, we're doing a live stream on Restream. It's the same idea. Same idea, but we're turning it into a podcast, we're turning it into a blog post, we're turning it into a live stream. It'll go on YouTube, it'll go on Periscope, and I'll take videos and then I'll put them on Twitter. And this is sort of what you're talking about, aren't you?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I do appreciate it can be difficult to be competent at all these different things, and it is confronting, as I'm sure you remember. I didn't realise you were actually a bit afraid of going live and doing video yourself.
It's hard to imagine, isn't it? It's hard to imagine now.
It's hard to imagine, but it can be confronting. And what I've suggested to people previously, and they're so lucky when they've got products, aren't they? Because then they've got something they can actually show that's not them.
Yeah.
And you can show your products and you can be the voice behind it if you don't want to be on it. And that helps you build up confidence and helps you understand how the notifications that come up on your stream, or obviously we've got chat here, and it helps you understand how to manage everything whilst you're doing it. Now, I can't envisage the workload that you have there. I've never worked on Restream or StreamYard as a manager. I've been a guest on both, but it sounds like the workload is tremendous. So I don't think this would be a beginner's tool. Do you?
No, and this is a very good point. This is a very good point. Restream is, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, it is better, but it's harder. You know, so I started with StreamYard, which is incredibly simple to use and has lots of features. And I pushed every button. And after 10 episodes, I had done everything that was possible with StreamYard. I could have done another series with StreamYard and it would have looked great. But now that I've done that, and it's exactly picking up on your point, I'm ready for Restream because there's more buttons. So, I can put a little logo here. I can put my QR code in the top, but I've got to push that button. And I'm pushing my button with my right hand while my mouth is moving, and I'm typing with my left hand. I feel like Rick Wakeman from Yes, or Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I mean, I'm doing sort of like this gig at the Telstra Dome, and I'm in charge. I'm using every part of my body and it's hard. But the point is that you got to start somewhere, and Elaine still has that first video of me saying, you know what, I'm never doing video. She's got a video of me saying, I'm never doing video. I'm doing this for you, Elaine, and I'll do it for you because we're buddies, but I'm never doing this myself. But I'll tell you what really helps, and I'll tell you this is a really good hack. Because I love people, having other people to talk to and with and about means that I get to talk a little bit, but then I get to introduce Simon, and then I get to introduce my friend Elaine, and then my buddies Irene and Doyle are in the chat room. So suddenly it's not so hard. Yeah, it's not so hard to do. So picking up on that, Simon, what do you think the evolution has been? You've been making quite a lot of comments there, and we're seeing extraordinary user-friendly tools that we, the average person in the street, can use. It's pretty astonishing, isn't it?
Well, I was fascinated with what John was saying, actually, because when you think about the metaverse, which is sort of the topic that he brought up, I was making a few comments in the chat there about you've only got to think about the success of things like Fortnite and Minecraft and Animal Crossing and virtual currencies and how people are living in a virtual environment on an ongoing basis. And also how I was talking to people, some parents recently who, when asking their children, what do they want for their birthday or for Christmas or for, a gift, and they want virtual currency. So I think the metaverse is going to be a very powerful thing. I'm not quite sure on where live streaming fits into that because you're kind of more immersed in it as opposed to streaming into a different sort of regular world, if I can use that term. But in terms of the technology, I'm reminding also of when I had, not these, but when I had the Google Glass when it first came out. And the Google Glass was an incredible tool that was produced, but it lacked certain functionalities and it was of its time. But it was a huge success when it came out because people wanted them. They were like gold dust. You couldn't get them. They were sort of developer. And then, they shipped a few. But then the whole privacy concern came up around it.
Yeah.
And, I know Apple will probably come out with some really cool looking glasses and everybody will want them and they'll become a global success, maybe. Who knows? But adding AR is a really powerful tool. I mean, I can't tell you how often in the, pre-pandemic where you meet somebody in the street and, if you had some information that was streaming to you about the fact that you knew them and that was their name and this was where they were from and, reminding you, it's somewhere between really scary from a privacy perspective, but also useful. So there's two sides to the argument. But when it comes to live streaming and, to bring it back to production, I'm with you on Restream. I just posted a comment that made me laugh when you said, I'm ready for Restream because there's more buttons to play with. That sort of tickled me a little bit. But it is an incredibly powerful tool. And I think the more we get to grasp, the more people get to experience it and just try it and get in front of a camera. Because I can remember, people in my family who, when the very first video cameras were brought into the house, nobody wanted to be on video.
Yeah.
And I can remember when people had audio cassette recorders and nobody wanted to hear their own voice on audio. And now we're all on Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces 24/7, going down the Clubhouse rabbit hole, listening to audio all day long. So the last thing I wanted to say on it, Keith, just in terms of where are we going, I think the point that was raised earlier in the conversation about, and I think maybe Elaine maybe touched on it, I'm not sure. I think as a species, we are picking up a lot more now, people who are in this space, on the visual and the audio cues. And I think we are seeing relationships being built across geographies, across time zones for people who have never met, and they're real, genuine relationships. Right? This call is testament to that. So, I don't think that's going to go away. And I think the hybrid nature of that, in the same way people are thinking about, do I go back to the office? Do I want to work from home all the time? Do I want to work somewhere else remotely part of the time? And in the same way, that's going to be hybrid. In the same way, I think events are going to be hybrid. I don't think anybody wants to cut off the extended global reach.
Yeah.
I think live streaming is going to be the same. I think it's here to stay. And I think it's, to your point, better than real life in some cases.
Well, let me pick up on that and run the room on a couple of separate questions. So we've chatted about the idea of live streaming. We touched on things I wasn't expecting. The metaverse, the idea that everything is amalgamating to a really cool global idea of hanging out with glasses on or goggles or on your phone, because mostly at the moment because of the pandemic. But the question I really want to ask, I want to ask two questions. One is, do you prefer audio or video, say Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces, as opposed to Restream and StreamYard? That's the first question I want to ask. And the second question I want to ask is, do you do a lot of your work on the PC, the desktop, the Mac, or are you doing a lot of work remotely and on the run on mobile devices? So let's start with the audio versus video discussion, and we'll start with Elaine because you've been patiently waiting. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they both have their place, and I don't think you're ever going to see one or t'other. I think people are always going to have a preference depending on what the situation is. Yeah. So if you're on the run, mobile is great for audio because it can just be turned on and you don't have to worry about it. Okay, you can be out walking the dog, or you can be driving somewhere, what have you, and listening to what's going on with something that's audio streaming. Video gives you so much more in a sensory perspective, and it's I think it's easier to keep focus when you can see to whom you're speaking or what they're showing you or what have you. Like Simon, Google Glass was very cool. The one problem that a lot of people, including me, had was it kind of gave me vertigo. There was a bit of a kind of a head wobble with the glasses. The new glasses, the Lucid glasses, definitely. I'm just in the process of ordering a pair, so I think it's something that can be really, really useful. And I think as we develop more and more wearables, you're going to see people switching back and forth. Okay, now, Keith, as you know, I've been doing a show since 2012 that about 3 or 4 years ago, we also converted it into a podcast. You can do a podcast that's video, or you can do, a real podcast and have it audio only. It's entirely up to you. And that, I think, has to be taken into consideration because it's, what do your customers want?
Yeah, what does the customer want?
If you like audio, well, that's great. But if your customers want video, if they want step-by-step, visual instruction, then audio is not going to be for everybody. It can be really hard to explain something to someone if you can only talk about it. If you can show them a diagram or draw them something while you're speaking, it gives a lot more comprehension. It's just like when you're taking notes in school or in some kind of course. When you take notes, when you write it down, when you hear it, when you see things, each and every sense that you put into use gets you to retain what you're learning a lot longer. So for me, it hands down, I would say if I had to have one or t'other, I would take video because it gives me the most opportunity.
And you can strip the audio if you want.
Oh, always do. That's how we made the podcast.
So what about you, Melanie? Let's bring you in on this idea of the first question. Do you prefer video and audio, and how do they differ? And what do you see happening with the convergence or the separation? Well, what do you prefer, first of all?
Well, I'm actually going to not I'm not going to agree directly with Elaine there in that they can be used, I think, at the same time. As we're both speakers, well, we're all speakers here, aren't we? And I think speakers can connect with an audience more on a personal level through video. Okay. And when we're trying to engage our audience, and you know, we are the primary focus of the talk, and like maybe we're training people and I will agree with you there about training, definitely. But what I like about the audio streaming is it's more the audience trying to engage the speaker. You know, they're waiting for their opportunity to speak, to ask questions of the speaker. And so that's what I've really enjoyed about Clubhouse, about Twitter Spaces. And I actually find the functionality currently in Clubhouse is actually better than in Twitter Spaces, because at least you can get moderators and there are processes that you can apply where you can say, hi, it's Melanie speaking, I'm Melanie and I'm done speaking. So, okay, there's not a facility for it, but you can actually pick processes that will make it easier. But what I've really liked about, or certainly more experience with Clubhouse than Twitter Spaces, but obviously it's a lot newer, is that I am massively into space and science. I'm sure you guys have picked up on that. I'm a bit of a nerd. And I've had some incredible conversations with people who literally step out of rocket labs and science labs, and they haven't got time to get out of their clothing. They've got data protection kit behind them that they can't have on video, and they literally have time to speak for half an hour and then disappear. And I've spoken to sort of CTOs and Chief Technology Officer of JPL, and I spoke like for about 40 minutes, almost one-to-one, with the Chief Technology Officer of NASA last weekend. What an experience!
On Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces?
Yeah, on Clubhouse.
Yeah. Let's pick up on this idea. Elaine's got a really cool story to share about that, and I'm going to share that in a minute. But the idea that with audio, because, and Doyle often says this, and if you're in the call, mate, feel free to jump in. Doyle often says that because audio is so much easier, you get a different level of access. I think that's what you're actually referring to there, that because video is, oh, geez, I've got to get dressed up, and geez, I haven't got a mic, and we couldn't get John's mic to work and his audio to work, and his video was playing up. And so suddenly there's all these layers. And if you want to have a go at StreamYard, you'll know exactly what I mean. You can probably tell how hard it is to work. But anyway, there's a lot of layers. Whereas with with Twitter Spaces, and especially Clubhouse, which was the sort of first one, it's plug and play. You turn you download the app and you're in. And because of the ease of use, it's attracting a lot of people that wouldn't ordinarily play. Is that sort of what you're alluding to there, Melanie?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the access has just been tremendous. I mean, Elon Musk has been on there, for goodness sake. You know, we've had amazing access to very busy, influential people that wouldn't give us the time of day normally, because there's no pre-production, there's no effort to going online.
Well, Elaine has a cool story about this from Hangouts. Can you share how you did that with Hangouts with astronauts? It sounds pretty fascinating.
Yeah, we hung out at the space station with the astronauts, and it actually catapulted the Canadian astronaut
Oh, what's
who
his
plays
name?
guitar.
What's his name?
I just went Chris Hadfield.
That's right, Chris Hadfield. He did.
Yeah,
He did Major Tom, didn't he, on his guitar?
Yeah.
Hello, Major Tom. It's Chris Hadfield.
Commander Hadfield. Yeah. Yeah, no, and he's done a lot more since, because it catapulted him to the forefront of all astronauts.
Yeah.
And there were Americans who could tell you his name before they could tell you the other American astronauts that were up there, because he was very engaging. He has a wonderful personality. He's really friendly and outgoing, and him and his brother have written a number of songs. It was really cool. You know, back in the day, Keith, I hung out, we got to be there with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. will.i.am took us on a backstage tour. Taylor Swift debuted one of her songs in a hangout. Like all these things happen. And in Clubhouse, yeah, it's in a room with Elon Musk. This morning it was Dane Cook. He's a comedian. I do a lot of comedian stuff. There's a lot of people that definitely it's quicker and easier to access audio. I totally get that. And it does make it very attractive for the average person. But when you get into some of those rooms, I'm sure Melanie's seen it as well, when they have 35 moderators, and even on an iPad, you can only see 9 circles, like profiles.
Yeah.
You don't even know who's speaking, because the little gold circle that goes around that profile is really, really hard to see. I actually just wrote an article for Marketing, Media, and Money magazine that's coming out shortly about Clubhouse and sort of what I saw in terms of similarities and what I saw in terms of differences to live streaming and video as opposed to audio.
Timing. In fact, can I say, Melanie and Simon, can we use this as an opportunity to introduce Elaine to you so that she can come on your podcast adventures? Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to have Elaine on. And you know Esther, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So can I ask Simon this question now? The question, I'm almost forgotten the question. The conversation's been so great. Audio versus video. Which do you prefer, and where do you see this going?
I'm going to say it depends, and that's not a politician's answer. It depends on the content type. So, for example, if I'm listening to a book, I'd rather listen to a book half the time than watch a movie. But it depends. If I'm in sort of what they used to call lean back mode, I'm not hunched over a computer keyboard. If I'm in lean back mode in the evening and I'm consuming video on Netflix, then I'll take video all day long. But if I'm listening to an audio book that's really riveting and I want to listen to it while I'm going for a walk or doing something else, then I like that in my ear. So I think the content type has an awful lot to do with the decision as to which one you prefer. I do really love, there's something quite fascinating in the tone of voice, the inflection in the voice, the accent. There is something that we really pick up on as humans. And I know video, when you watch a fantastic movie, the imagery, it's the cinematography, it's the art of the director that makes the difference. And also the editing that goes into it. And on Elaine's point about Clubhouse and the accessibility, I'd echo that. But I wonder what's going to happen when, a lot of the planet's vaccinated and people go back to a, not at home hanging out on Clubhouse environment all the time. What happens when the other competitors come into the audio space? And there's a huge issue. I know some people are recording their rooms, but most people aren't. So from a brand perspective, or if you bring commerce into it, the reuse and the recordings are not really available. Once it's done, it's gone. As opposed to this, I know you're live streaming this, for example, but it'll be available forever in theory.
Yeah, and I'll do some recordings. I'll do some editing, and I'll do some little snippets on Twitter. Uh, what I want to ask you, Simon, as a secondary question, because you came to that question as a consumer, and it's a very interesting viewpoint to come. What do you prefer to watch or listen to? But what about as the creator? Do you find that the ROI on creating audio as opposed to creating video is better for generating leads or for meeting, having really good conversations, or the ROI that is important to you? What what buttons do you push when you want to create content?
Well, I heard an interesting stat recently that there's over 2 million podcast shows. So not episodes, but actual shows. There's over 2 million podcast shows, but 90% of them have got less than 5 episodes, and most of them will never have more than 5 episodes because people give up. And then there's that sort of, you've got to get past 100 episodes on an audio podcast to actually have learned anything and to see whether you can actually generate a community. And then there's the how many hours you put into it. And, like building an audience on YouTube, it's a 3 to 5 year job,
Man,
and people
yeah.
people miss that. But in terms of production and ROI, Keith, I mean, look, anybody who spent hours editing video and audio knows it's a lot longer process than just editing the audio, because you don't have to line the frames up with the audio. So it's much easier from a personal return on investment to get the audio out there. Having said that, I think going on a single audio, that's my preference. I don't think that's going to reach the core audience because we're visual beings, right? And ultimately people it's like it's hard one to answer, because most videos that people watch on a mobile device doesn't have the sound on,
Yeah.
yet the vast majority of videos go out without subtitling or closed captions,
Yeah.
and most videos go out in one language. So if you truly want to capture a global audience and have a true return on investment on the content that you're creating from a commercial perspective, you need to think about language, you need to think about subtitling. And you also need to think that the vast majority of people are skimming your video content with a thumb or a finger on a very small screen. So if it's not capturing them straight away, and they can't read it, they're probably not going to stick around. So it's like, these tools are very, the price of the tools is coming down. People are getting more and more used to using. But producing good content and delivering a return on investment is still, in my view, rightly or wrongly, is still an art, and it takes effort and it takes knowledge.
And look at what we're doing here, man. Look, we've got the whole world speaking, and it's hard to do, but it's so worthwhile. It's so satisfying, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you need a bit of passion, and you need an interest to produce it. Like, not everybody has the wherewithal to produce a show, and I think Elaine was referring to that. Sometimes, if you can just jump on an audio call, and there's a benefit to that. There's an accessibility. I don't have to make sure that I look okay. I don't have to make sure that the background's okay. I can just pick up the mobile phone and start talking, and just I'm connected to the commander from the space station or whoever it is, and there's a huge benefit to that. And it's been fueled by the pandemic, of course, because we're all craving, I think, human connection and audio connections on the various platforms. We're talking about Clubhouse here at the moment, and there'll be many more. But I think ultimately it's about human connection and storytelling. And I think the platforms and tools will change. I know you have a strong bet with Doyle in terms of the longevity of audio versus video. But I think ultimately the tools won't matter. It'll be something else next year. It'll be something else in 5 years' time. And but the bottom line is, as humans, we want to storytell, we want to hear about stories, and we want to feel part of a community. And I think that's the focus area, not the tools and the platforms.
Yeah.
I think
I totally agree with you, and I'm going to bring Elaine back in on that. Just want to clarify what you were talking about there with Doyle. I had said that because Clubhouse, for me, because I'm an Android user and a PC user, get to this in a minute, mobile versus desktop. Because I'm a PC user and an Android user, I was offended that Clubhouse came out as an iPhone only solution, and that 13 million people took to it. And I had said to Doyle, mate, if Clubhouse is still going in its original format as an Android, an iPhone only app, and people can get it, and it's still going, then I'm going to send you a bottle of bourbon, because I just don't think that's right. And already there's people introducing the idea of probably doing an app which we're playing with, might be able to use Clubhouse on a desktop, and maybe that'll work. And maybe the Android version will come out soon, and maybe that'll extend its reach. But it looks like Twitter Spaces is covering all of those bases and may usurp that and even buy it. There was some discussion that they offered $4 billion for. I think Clubhouse wanted $4 billion, and they said no, that it's not worth that. So let's come back to that another time. But Elaine, you've got a comment on what Simon was saying.
Yeah, so much is going on that's so good to do with audio and video. My thing, I think, bottom line, when you talk about, connecting with your customers and really being able to have your customer and your prospects and others be able to trust you, build that know, like, trust factor. There is nothing like being able to see someone, because, okay, I got off a plane in Vegas and got stopped by someone who had seen me on Facebook.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Okay. Same thing in Ireland. Person came up to me when I went to speak in Ireland, Melanie, and it was not somebody that was with us at the event. It was somebody else who had seen me on LinkedIn because my picture is the same everywhere. And it just gives people that familiarity.
Yeah.
So that it's like when you watch the same newscast year after year, you watch the same news person doing the news, you kind of feel a kinship, like they're part of your circle, they're in your tribe.
Yeah.
And
there's a recognition, isn't there? There's a recognition.
Absolutely. And you cannot buy, borrow, or steal the value of that in that know, like, and trust
It's
factor.
branding 101, isn't it? Let's bring Melanie in for a couple of reasons. It's very late there, and I it must be 2 a.m. now, and I've helped her a long time. I really want to honor the fact that you and Simon have called in at this late hour just to really emphasize the globality. I just made that word up. I don't think it actually exists in the English language. The globality of live streaming. But you've got a comment about what Elaine was saying, but most importantly, wrap it up, go to bed. But what are you thinking, and tell us how people can get more in touch with you. But now, first of all, there's a comment.
I do agree with what Elaine was saying there. There is a brand recognizing capability by doing video, but by speaking at events in general, or putting your face, your personal face on your branding rather than just your logo. Because let's face it, certainly early on, a lot of businesses just stick with the logo because they don't want to be in, they don't have a personal presence on their social media or their branding, actually. But one thing I have noticed, that when I do live stream, let's say I'm near the beach and there's a gentle breeze, it's a breathtaking location, and a gentle breeze goes underneath my phone whilst I'm live streaming, and my audience disappears because they can't hear me anymore.
Yeah.
So what's more important there? I could be on the top of Ben Nevis, or I could be by the most breathtaking beach in the world, but if they can't hear me, they go. So you need to have a happy medium of both, and this is why I've enjoyed the Twitter Spaces and the Clubhouses of this world, because it's given me a level of access where people don't drop off.
Yeah.
But I honestly do feel that there is a place for all of these things. I do think the more we can spread our message on different platforms, I know it's time consuming and it can also be quite costly as well. But our audience is everywhere, and they absorb information and consume information in lots and lots of different ways. Okay, I'm going to ask each of you now, because there's only a few of us on stage now. When you go to IKEA, Do you read the instructions, watch a YouTube video, or have a go at it yourself?
Have a go.
Elaine?
Run the room.
Go.
Yeah, we'll just
Have a go.
have a play.
Well, I have a go, then I can't do it, then I watch a YouTube video, and then I give it to my husband.
In that order.
Yeah.
I'm too
Look,
stubborn.
it's a very good question. What do you think, Elaine? Do you have a go? Do you?
Oh, absolutely have a go. I am so stubborn, total Scorpio. I'm going to do it. I can do it all by myself, and it'll turn out. It may have extra bits, but hey.
And Simon, do you have a go, or do you read the instructions first?
I'm going to be the odd one out here. I actually study the instructions, which might give you some insight
Wow!
into how boring I am.
No,
because
that's good.
I
Yeah,
study
that's
the
great. I'm calling
instructions.
you next time.
Yeah, and then I normally, well, not always, but most of the time it really helps. And but that's through many years of trial and error of other people not reading instructions and me having to fix it anyway. So there you go. I don't wade in. I read it first, but maybe I'm the odd one out there.
It's just me.
Good.
Yeah, well, I think it sort of it does. I mean, with Restream, for instance, the only way that I can learn it is by doing it. I'm a very kinesthetic person, so I could read hundreds of books and do videos, but at the end of the day, I've got to try it. I've got to try it, and but the question is whether or not you will read instructions before. Now, Melanie, if you need to go, please do. And in fact, if everyone needs to go, it is almost an hour and a half. If you want to go, we can. I'll finish here. Yep. So it's about 9:30 p.m. in Toronto and Ottawa. It's about 2 a.m, maybe 2:30 in the morning. So why don't we wrap it up? Run the room one last time. Everyone gets a chance to say hello and where they're coming from, and we'll do this again in a few weeks. So first things first, Melanie, while you're there, how do we get in contact with you?
Absolutely. You can find me at www.stomp.ie. And thank you for having me on.
Stomp.ie.
Stomp, STOMP.
No worries. And
As in
Elaine?
stomp your feet.
Yeah, you can Google Elaine Lindsay or Trull Social. That's TROOL social.com.
And that stands for?
The rest of our lives.
That's
and
right.
you can see it on the website. Or, barring that, you forget, just look up at the corner of Search and Social.
At the corner of Search and Social.
Yeah.
And Simon, how can we contact you, man? What are you thinking? Have we lost you? We lost your audio.
No. It's I'd say a Google search is probably your fastest because I'm on to Melanie's point. I'm on that many platforms. It's hard not to find me at this stage. So a quick Google search, or I've got a link tree or an about me, or do you know what? LinkedIn's probably the best.
Yeah, I know you're digging LinkedIn. Yeah, you get a lot of work there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, I want to thank everyone for this experimental version of Restream. It really is just the first attempt at this one. I think I like it better. I'm going to experiment, but I can see there's several advantages. You've been watching to a show called Going Global with live streaming, and I'm pushing buttons as I'm talking. I'm pretty impressed with myself. And now I'm going to run a bit of a theme song at the end to run it around why online events are better than real life. We'll see you in a few weeks, and thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.